For many people, the idea of Star Citizen ticks every box. It's not finished, but what the game plans to achieve is what many have been waiting decades for. But there are a few things that I expect to really make this game shine for everybody who decides to jump in the future. Let's talk about one of those aces up Star Citizen sleeve. Thank you for coming to my Tomato Talk. As an MMO, Star Citizen wants to create a massive community that is always interacting with one another and the game. And as a space game, there is a huge amount of options for this to be done. The studio doesn't want to just create events and ship them out every first week of the month, and they don't want these events to just be new bosses or a different outfit, even though they've done that before. Cloud Imperium wants to allow events to not only be curated to a specific narrative or story that fits into the lore of the game, but they want these events to be triggered by the players as well. Now, basic live events are nothing new. In the last 10 years, they've grown in popularity in other games, while being a staple of MMOs in various ways. I actually talked about live events in general and how they could affect Star Citizen last year, if you'd like to check it out in the video description. But what's different here from many other games is that major detail of player interaction, allowing unique variables and local changes to automatically trigger these events at random times, rather than relying on the studio to do it. But let's take a step back briefly and look at the spectrum of scale and complexity when it comes to player interactions. On one end, here you have static missions, basic deliveries, refueling, mining, bounty hunting, but in the middle here are dynamic missions. The same thing, but constructed from probability volumes that will constantly be changing. And then you have dynamic events. Today, we'll focus on these last two. Dynamic events are the beating heart of what Star Citizen plans to be. They're split into two categories, automatically and manually triggered events, the former being the more interesting aspect. These events will use the quantum system to work correctly, quantum being the back-end universe simulator that will allow all systems to be interweaved, allowing everything to correlate with what is happening in real time throughout the game in different locales. It's a tool for designers to take the work they do and the things they build and tie them into player interaction and systemic narrative changes. Game developers want to change things, they want to create things and implement chaos in all sorts of ways. And if they can use the player base to fulfill those goals, then you have an opportunity that only certain games can ever achieve. You can look at these events as if they were short stories or chapters in the overarching narrative of Star Citizen. Things like Vanduul invasions, extremist attacks, or the introduction of a new aggressive pirate group to a system. Things that could be a few days long or a whole quarter. Now going back to the event triggers, clearly, automatic triggers will be the most interesting and unexpected events in the game. But how random can the triggers be? How much effort will be put into niche situations on outer rim systems? These are important questions that will only be answered as the tool matures and allows for more exploration in the process. But the prospect of these events are particularly exciting. As players, we won't know if one of these dynamic events is going to happen unless it's leaked. But as the studio, Cloud Imperium will be able to see the conditions approaching the threshold and prepare themselves. They also may be able to manipulate these conditions a little bit to produce certain events for us as well, theoretically. One of those conditions is population, which is a metric that is already looked at for every location in an area. Based on certain events, that population can increase or decrease, exacerbating the usual interactions in the area. And it may also avoid putting additional load on the server, as much of this is handled in the background and simulated, rather than by actual physically present NPCs. Now in this same line of thought, Persistent Universe game director Tony Zurovic discusses Fleet Week, talking about demand for certain materials going up during the event because technically in the verse there are hundreds of thousands of NPCs gathering at this event and celebrating, having fun. The devs will manually use this opportunity to affect our rates when it comes to cargo running and the like. This is just one way in which Star Citizen will use every segment of the game to affect others in systemic ways. Imagine a spider web, taut and undisturbed, but something lands in the web and the vibrations travel down the lengths all the way to the predator, communicating the change across a great distance, relatively speaking. If we look at Star Citizen as the web and Fleet Week or another dynamic event as that bug, you can see how as the various systems in the game unfold these sorts of events and the method in which the game hopes to work starts to sound more enticing. You've got cargo runners flocking for the money, pirates hoping to snag a fat payday, and security looking to be the grain in between. Multi-purpose orgs start to look like a better and better idea for some, which is why I'm becoming more and more interested in starting my own organization. Now let's take a specific example that may or may not be something we see later this year. Imagine a recurring event which can push to change the game as we know it. The pirate group scenario I mentioned earlier is a great example, and one that Tony Z talked about possibly happening. As a pirate crew continues to fight players and gain territory, even if players beat them back, the event might be amended to empower the pirates more, changing the dynamic of the system as they take more territory and change the risk versus reward factor of that region for the foreseeable future. This would be an amazing way to make major changes in the game. And while this could lead to some incredible one-off stories and incredible interactivity amongst the community, this system could also clearly be broken if Cloud Imperium wants something to happen so badly that they don't give the players the satisfaction of accomplishment they're looking for. But I'm sure they have that in mind, and I'll be keeping an eye on how they handle that over the years. The other danger I see with this system is as Cloud Imperium plays with the idea of whether they want these groups to return or not, they need to remember that random groups don't really elicit as much a response as a recurring faction. In terms of xenothreat, it'd be great for them to drop in, dominate everybody, make some lasting effect, and then leave, only to return in 2 to 3 quarters or even a couple years. Leave that lasting impression that encourages players to jump back in when they know their least favorite characters are back to get shot in the face. But what if players don't want to wait another 2 months for an event, and they just want to run missions? Luckily, a similar system is being implemented to cover our daily basis as well. Dynamic missions use probability volumes to coordinate specific events and missions for a player that meets certain requirements. A small cargo ship near a moon may not have any problem, but a massive cargo ship out near a jump point could find itself ambushed by pirates. And given the system or specific jump point, or even maybe a dynamic event already taking place in the system, you may not have security to call upon. Dynamic events as a tool in this situation allow game designers not to worry about certain aspects of the missions they want to make. The work is already done for them, and the dynamic event and dynamic mission systems just act as the tools to streamline the process, much like building blocks did with the UI in this game. I love this stuff, guys, and I've been developing a script about these types of missions in the game on and off for the better part of a year now. So we're going to be talking a lot more about this in the future, my friends, don't you worry. But I am a bit confused about how dynamic missions and static missions will be separated, as I've always been under the impression that static missions are affected by probability volumes anyways. We'll need to clarify that at some point, unless you guys have the explanation, in which case let me know in the comments. Regardless, the idea of these dynamic events and missions is one that I believe will transform Star Citizen from a simple space MMO in the making to something more alive, more diverse, and more unique for each player. In my opinion, dynamic events are a game changer. Just like I said last year, they'll help to define the game overall. And dynamic missions will use probability volumes to make your boring trade mission become a split-second decision between ditching your cargo and running, or making an escape in that nearby asteroid field to save your earnings. Is this something you think will be crucial for the game to survive? Is it something that you even care about? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoy these opinion-based essays about Star Citizen, consider subscribing for the same content year-round. And while you're at it, don't forget to enter my ongoing giveaway for the Tobii Eye Tracker 5, which ends at the end of this week. And make sure to check out my monthly giveaways here in the video description or over on Twitch, which is also in the video description. Don't forget to keep an eye out for that secret message I leave in my videos throughout the month to get you a few extra points towards that monthly giveaway. And Theo's store, if you didn't catch it in the beginning, you are the January ship giveaway. Please email me at the email in the video description to verify and get your prize. And if you'd like to support me, consider heading over to my Patreon page and perusing the perks you can get for just $1 a month. Thank you all for dropping by to check out this video. I hope you'll consider the same for the next, and I'll catch you all later.